Hey all you horror fans, I'm David with Terrible Reviews, and if you want to see more horror content from me, make sure you hit that like and follow button. Today's review is going to be the 1986 horror comedy, Critters. Now, I haven't seen this movie yet, so it should be pretty interesting. But, without further ado, let's skip to the future and see what I thought about Critters. Terrible Review. Wow. So, this movie was a lot better than I thought it was going to be going into it. Like, a lot better. Now, horror comedies are kind of like hit and miss, but there are a few gems out there, and I would have to say that Critters is definitely one of them. This movie was awesome and a great time all the way through, but let's get into my actual review and I can kind of explain why. So, terror. Is this movie scary? No. This movie is not really scary at all. There are some visual things that can be pretty scary if you're like squeamish or not really good with gore. But other than that, this movie is pretty tame as far as it comes like in the horror variety of being scary. So I will have to give this one a 2 out of 5 for terror. Now, gore, on the other hand, is pretty decent in this movie. There are some bad special effects, mostly dealing with like the outer space stuff, but I can kind of give them a pass for this. It was 1986, so, I mean, Star Wars did it a lot better, but this is definitely not going to have the budget of Star Wars, so I'll give them a pass on that. But a lot of the body horror that they had, especially at the beginning of the movie with the bounty hunters, if you know what scene I'm talking about, that was amazing. And there was a lot of practical effects, like not even just like gore in the movie, but a lot of practical effects that looked awesome, and you could tell they had a fun time doing this movie. So for gore, I'll have to give this one a 3 out of 5. Now, like I said, the space stuff does take away from it a little bit, but I am giving it a bit of a pass on that. But overall, the practical effects were great. There just weren't enough in there for me to give it a higher score. Now, the story was actually really decent with this movie, and that's what really surprised me, is the writing in this movie was very well done, for a horror comedy at least. So the jokes and like references to other movies in this one were great. Some of them are hard to notice, but if you do notice them, it'll give you a bit of a laugh. Like Pin Busters, I found that very funny. But overall, like the characters and everything in this were great. The acting was actually very, very great for a low budget, like B horror movie. Like this was a great time all around as far as like the directing, the story writing, and the actors themselves. Everyone did a phenomenal job. And not to mention, this movie has its own original song, and it's actually a banger. It's called Power of the Night. And if you look it up, like Power of the Night Critters, listen to it if you didn't watch the movie. But it's actually pretty much a banger. And yeah, like this movie was great. Everything worked as far as like the story writing and the story itself. And the movie is only an hour and 20 minutes, not including the credits. Like, they did a lot in such a short amount of time. I have to give them like a huge amount of credit. This movie's writing, story, directing, everything were awesome. I have to give it a 4 out of 5. There were like a few lulls in the movie, but other than that, this movie was very, very well written, very well acted, and very well directed. Now, fun. Is this movie fun? Yes, absolutely. This movie is a blast. If you haven't watched Critters, go watch it. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 for fun. You will have fun watching this movie if you like horror comedies. This one, it hit it out of the park. It's great all around. It kind of reminds me of like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but I believe it does some things better. The creatures themselves were great. Now, they don't get like a ton of screen time, and they're basically just like little murderous Sonic the Hedgehogs, if I had to like explain it like any particular way. But yeah, this movie was a blast, and if you don't own it on DVD, it is free to stream on Tubi, and I believe like the other sequels are as well. I'll have to check that out. But if you don't have this physically, go to Tubi, watch this movie. Critters is amazing. Is it terrifying or terrible? I would have to say it is terrifying in the best and funniest way possible. So, have you seen Critters? If you have, What did you think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next review.